Okay, guys, we're going deep today. Have you ever caught yourself wondering, hey, am I actually using the best AI image model out there? Well, you're definitely not the only one, and that's exactly the question this tutorial is built around. We're comparing 24, yep, you heard that right, 24 different AI image models, from Midjourney V8.2 and ByteDance's Seedream 5.0 Pro to Microsoft's MAI Image 2.5 Pro and Meta's Muse. You can see the full lineup of our friendly competitors right here. We're about to jump into a test series covering 10 completely different scenarios, starting off fairly simple and gradually getting pretty complex. For every test, I'll pick the strongest results, and by the end, we'll have a pretty revealing performance matrix. Hopefully, it'll help you find your way through a space that's getting more crowded and confusing by the day. This tutorial isn't here to tell you there's only one platform worth using. Stick with whatever works for you, and yep, you're absolutely allowed to disagree with me. What you're seeing here is simply the outcome of this specific test series, based on a detailed comparison of every single image, a pretty solid understanding of what AI can and can't do, and the experience that comes with creating close to 100,000 images. So, let's see how these 24 models handled the 10 challenges. Quick side note before we jump in. I reached out to the team at Black Forest Labs through the contact option on their website and asked for early access to FLUX.2, but so far I haven't heard back. So for now, FLUX.2 Max is still the model representing Black Forest Labs in this race. Another pretty interesting thing I noticed along the way is that some platforms put a hard limit on prompt length. Midjourney, for example, allows 1,024 characters. Anything beyond that gets adjusted by the AI, which can add even more variability to the results. Adobe Firefly simply refuses to run the prompt once it goes over 1,024 characters. And Runway Gen 4 is even tighter at just 1,000 characters. That's why you'll see those limits marked in red here. So for this test series, every prompt had to be as precise and compact as possible. Scene 1 puts the spotlight on the person, the hairstyle, the specific outfit, the pose, the lighting, and that whole 1980s photo shoot vibe. In short, this one's all about photorealism. And just so you know, you'll always see the matching AI image model right underneath each image. I recently heard another creator say that the AI image market has basically consolidated and that almost every platform now delivers pretty similar results. Well, this test tells a very different story. Sure, if we stay in swipe culture and only look for a second, the images can feel pretty similar, but the moment you zoom in, the cracks start to show, even with some of the big names. Faces can look plastic, body parts bend in weird ways, and while some models stick closely to the prompt, others take more freedom and put image aesthetics first. What really stands out is how consistently Midjourney does its own thing. While most models settle on some kind of standard pose, Midjourney goes a little more active, a little more sideways, and usually a little more creative. You can see it perfectly in this example. With the exact same prompt, almost every model keeps the horizon straight, while Midjourney tilts it close to 45 degrees. That adds drama and energy, but depending on the scene, it can also be a bit much. There's no single clear winner here, but there are definitely a few models that struggle with this kind of task. The strongest results came from GPT Image 2, Muse, MAI Image 2.5 Pro, Ideogram, Nano Banana 2 Lite, Nano Banana 2, and Nano Banana Pro. My personal favorite is the Muse version from Meta.ai. Scene 2 makes that even more obvious. While most of the other platforms keep a certain distance, Midjourney jumps straight into the action. The camera basically feels like it's sinking into the water. The prompt for this test describes an orange off-road SUV driving through the rapids of a river. There's a big pile of expedition gear strapped to the roof, light reflections, splashing mud, flying water, and the whole thing is supposed to feel like a dynamic, cinematic action shot. On paper, this isn't some impossible task for AI, but as usual, the real difference is in the nuance. Perspective matters. Believable water spray in relation to the vehicle matters. Proper light reflections matter. And of course, the big one, can the model actually stage the scene in a way that feels exciting, maybe even with a touch of motion blur? Once again, a few platforms are very much in the race here, including GPT Image 2, Krea 2 Large, MAI Image 2.5 Pro, Midjourney V8.2, Nano Banana 2 Lite, Nano Banana Pro, Recraft V4.1, and Reve 2.1. My personal favorite in this round is the version from Midjourney. Scene 3 was once again inspired by my slightly chaotic brain. In short, the setup goes like this. A white dragon is riding a fast-moving brown horse, carrying one green bag and one purple bag, while small yellow petals or leaf-like fragments drift through the air. The horse is charging along a narrow path, with clouds of dust making the speed and movement feel visible. And the whole thing is supposed to look like a highly detailed, painterly fantasy illustration. What's honestly pretty wild is how similar some of these results look. You could almost believe they came from the exact same AI image model. Some platforms go completely overboard and start throwing digital paint around like crazy, just to make sure nobody misses the word painterly. Others keep things a little more controlled without losing the fantasy feel. The strongest versions came from FLUX.2 Max, Grok Imagine, Ideogram, MAI Image 2.5 Pro, Nano Banana 2 Lite, Qwen Image 3, and Reve 2.1. My personal favorite is the version from MAI Image 2.5 Pro. Scene 4 is all about whether the models can really understand and reproduce a specific illustration style. In this case, it's a Japanese woodblock style image, including visual and written details that actually fit the period. What makes this test especially interesting is how differently the models interpret the main subject, a large hornbill-like bird. It's not something as clearly defined as a swan or a kingfisher, so there's a lot more room for interpretation. And honestly, there's pretty much something for everyone here. Some models stick closely to the Japanese woodblock idea and keep things subtle, restrained, and stylistically convincing. They even add a few scratches and signs of age, which makes perfect sense for something that's supposed to look like an old print. Others polish the illustration so much that it starts to feel less like a historic woodblock and more like fancy Sunday artwork. A few models also add a visible frame around the image, and that actually helps sell the whole printed woodblock idea even better. Most of the results are pretty solid, but if we judge them by how authentic they look for that particular period, Runway Gen 4 would definitely be near the top. When it comes to the more creative and visually attractive versions, GPT Image 2, Seedream 01 Image, Hunyuan Image 3, Krea 2 Large, MAI Image 2.5 Pro, Muse, and Seedream 5.0 Pro all make the shortlist. My personal favorite is the version from GPT Image 2. Scene 5 isn't about some random phone snapshot. It's about pathos, intimidation, and that feeling of an unseen force that gives off one very clear message. Don't even think about talking to me. The prompt sets the tone with pretty specific keywords for the AI: authority, survival, unpolished, unshaken. And once again, this is where Midjourney really steps up. It delivers an image with serious visual impact, almost like it came straight out of the stills of some legendary desert planet epic. A lot of the other results are technically more faithful to the prompt, especially when it comes to the stares directly into the camera part. But let's be real, perfect prompt adherence doesn't help much if the final image still feels kinda average. Quite a few of them fall into this overly symmetrical setup, and that makes the whole thing feel staged and stiff instead of powerful. One surprise here is Recraft V4.1. That one also brings a really strong presence and gives the viewer exactly that sense of cold rejection the prompt was aiming for. The most convincing results in this round came from GPT Image 2, MAI Image 2.5 Pro, Midjourney V8.2, Nano Banana 2, Recraft V4.1, Reve 2.1, and Seedream 5.0 Pro. My personal favorite is the version from Midjourney V8.2. In the next scene, we're mixing three pretty different things: technical precision, a playful little icon, the smiley, and the look of a proper construction drawing. The prompt asks for all the stuff you'd expect from a real blueprint, including drafting lines, measurement arrows, dimension chains, center lines, reference axes, radius markers, angle annotations, symmetry guides, tangent points, coordinates, tolerances, and technical callouts. And all of it needs to come with clean, accurate labels and dimensions. Looking at the results, only a few of them really give us something to smile about. Way too often, randomness beats logic and chaos beats structure. You almost want to shout at the AI. Throwing in 3 more circles won't help if you haven't even understood the basic construction. And that's exactly where a lot of the models fall apart. Reference lines seem almost random. The text can be hard to read, and consistent dimensioning based on one proper reference system is often missing completely. Sometimes a number is just dropped into the image because, well, apparently there had to be a number somewhere. But if the exact same length is marked as 40 millimeters in one place and 45 in another, the whole drawing is basically useless. The strongest results here came from GPT Image 2, Grok Imagine Image, MAI Image 2.5 Pro, and Nano Banana Pro. My personal favorite is the version from MAI Image 2.5 Pro. Some of you might already recognize this scenario because I had already used it before in the tests between the 3 Nano Banana models. Scene 7 is basically built around a very simple idea. Ernest Hemingway wrote that legendary novel, The Old Man and the Sea. It's about a fisherman who heads out alone onto the ocean and catches a huge marlin. The problem is, the fish is too large to pull into the boat. So he ties it to the outside, and on the way back, that catch turns into an easy target for sharks. After a long struggle, he makes it back to the fishing village. But by then, not much of the prize is left. So the job for the AI image models was actually pretty clear. Based on just a few core story beats, they had to build a storyboard grid that tells this whole journey in exactly 9 equally sized panels. And honestly, the results are all over the place. In a lot of cases, it feels like there's barely any understanding of what 9 equal images even means. The sequence breaks apart, the storytelling falls apart, and weird stuff starts happening. Flying sharks definitely don't help. And neither does that old-school logic of just throw something in there and hope nobody notices. The most convincing results here came from GPT Image 2, Krea 2 Large, Nano Banana 2 Lite, Nano Banana 2, Nano Banana Pro, and Reve 2.1. My personal favorite is the version from GPT Image 2. Scene 8 is a pretty intense one, because this task comes with a whole stack of nested challenges. The AI not only has to understand that there are different AI image models, or, more accurately in this case, different image styles, it also has to visually define each of those styles and then place every single one of them inside a clean diagram with proper labeling. On top of that, the AI could decide for itself how many of those style panels to include, as long as it stayed within the range of 16 to 24. And that's exactly what makes this test so revealing. You can clearly see who just kind of paints and who actually thinks before putting the scene together. And of course, there's another big factor here too, text rendering. Because all of this only really works if the labels are written cleanly and correctly. And not every AI image model can pull that off. The most convincing results here came from GPT Image 2, MAI Image 2.5 Pro, Muse, Nano Banana Pro, Qwen Image 3, Reve 2.1, and Seedream 5.0 Pro. My personal favorite is the version from Seedream 5.0 Pro. Scene 9 is where the AI actually has to think. The prompt gives it just 2 things, a date and an event. So the real question is, which AI image model actually understands what happened on that specific day, and which one just reacts to a couple of obvious keywords? The prompt literally says, Show the image on July 20th, 1969, during the first moon landing broadcast. The whole idea here was to show the broadcast itself, meaning people back in 1969 sitting at home watching the moon landing on a typical black and white television from that era. And once you look through the results, it becomes pretty clear that a lot of the models only picked up on the moon landing part. So what you get is a scene on the moon, ideally with the lander and astronauts, and that's basically where the thinking stops. Some models try to mix both ideas and still stumble, so you end up with a giant television showing an astronaut or the lunar surface, but not really the full moment the prompt was aiming for. 14 out of 24 models managed to deliver the complete package, at least in terms of understanding the assignment, regardless of the actual image quality. The most convincing results here came from Nano Banana 2 Lite, Nano Banana 2, Nano Banana Pro, and Seedream 5.0 Pro. My personal favorite is the version from Nano Banana 2. And now we're at the final test of this series, the 6-man Wrecking Crew Challenge. This one's all about numbers, assignment, and cinematic staging. We need 3 white men and 3 men of colour. All of them are wearing demolition work overalls and basketball jerseys, with the correct, consistent lettering. On top of that, the scene also calls for demolition tools like sledgehammers, crowbars, and pickaxes, plus intense expressions, cinematic lighting, and dramatic volumetric shadows. If we ignore the actual final image quality for a second and focus only on whether the task was solved correctly, then 7 platforms managed to pull it off. GPT Image 2, Muse, Nano Banana 2, Nano Banana Pro, Qwen Image 3, Reve 2.1, and Seedream 5.0 Pro. That said, every single one of those images still has some kind of weakness. Some are way too crowded and chaotic. Others just don't look good enough in terms of quality. If I had to name one personal favorite here, it'd be Seedream 5.0 Pro. But really, mostly because of the overall mood. The faces are honestly not good at all. So, looking at the final results, here's how the ranking shakes out. GPT Image 2 takes first place. Second place is shared by Microsoft's surprisingly strong MAI Image 2.5 Pro and Google's Nano Banana Pro. And in third place, we've got another pretty big surprise with Reve V2.1. When it comes to Midjourney, I'm honestly a little torn. It clearly struggles in a few of these categories. But even though I haven't been using the platform quite as much lately, for me as a professional designer, it's still a must-have tool. Midjourney's image aesthetics are simply too good to ignore. But let me say this one more time. If you're happy with the platform you're already using and the pricing works for you, there's absolutely no reason to suddenly jump ship. What really matters is whether the results work for you. This was just a snapshot based on these 10 examples. And of course, if you hit rerun 25 times on any platform, some results will get better and some will get worse. I hope this comparison gave you something useful. Have fun creating with AI.
I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for listening. Your channel, AI. Now you know.